Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, we're going to be painting a stormy sea landscape. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think. I'll show you step by step how to go through this. Got my husband Mark with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's man in chat tonight, so if you've got questions, you can ask those in chat and we'll try to answer. Let's get started. All right, we've got a stormy night here too. We've got the sound effects in the background, some booming thunder happening back here, so it should be an interesting night. Hopefully we won't lose power or anything. Fingers crossed. I think we'll be all right. All right, so I'm using an 11 by 14 inch canvas. I did not prep it with any background colors or anything. Fitzy, get out of there. My dog is under my feet. He's like scared of storms. Sorry.
The thunder knees.
Yeah, he's like, I feel him bumping up against my knees. All right, let's go over brushes. I've got mostly Aspen brushes. We went over, if you missed it last week, we did some basic kind of like practice on how to paint water. So if you're new to painting with acrylics, you might check that out first. There was also some really good resources from past tutorials. This one, we're going to be doing some, swooping waves and crashing sea foam and things like that, some rocks. And a lot of this one is actually clouds, so we'll have some clouds too. So for the clouds, you're going to want like some sort of a stippler brush. I've got a Deerfoot stippler here and a blender here, and those are both from Princeton Select and VelvetTouch to be exact. And then the Aspen brushes. I've also got a Catalyst that I might try out, but just got various sizes of Aspen brushes, flats and Filberts mostly. All right, let's get going here. Go over our colors. Yes.
Perfect timing.
It is. Can you even hear it on there? I don't know. Carbon black, burnt umber, burnt sienna, cadmium yellow light, quinacridone magenta, ultramarine blue, phthalo blue green shade, unbleached titanium. That's a long thunder too. It's still going. Titanium white, zinc white, and this one is satin glazing liquid. So I put out the zinc white just because it's a transparent white and it's nice with clouds. So I thought maybe we could use it for that. It's also will work for our sea foam and sea spray and things like that. All right, so first thing we want to do is just kind of get some color down. I'm going to use my pen or chalk and what? Yeah, towards me. Okay. And here comes the rain. Let's just sketch out kind of where we want our light source to be coming from. Can you move the thing over? I can't see the whole screen. Okay, yeah, that's better. Thank you. I still can't see the whole screen of the... Yeah, there we go. Perfect. I've got a little preview screen so I can see what you see on camera, so it just helps me stay in the spot where I need to be. All right, so I think I'm going to do in our picture, the sky is a little bit bigger than the seas, so we're going to go kind of find our halfway mark and come kind of just below that. I'm just going to mark that, and we want this line to be perfectly straight. This one's not going to be, but when we paint it, we will make it perfectly straight. And then we'll kind of map out sort of where we want our clouds and things. And I think I'm going to add just a tiny bit of color. This is very like blue and gray kind of clouds. And so I think I'm going to add just a slight bit of like reds, oranges, yellows, just a little bit though. I don't want it to look like a sunset kind of thing, but I do want to have some light coming through and causing some colors in our clouds. So what I've got here, I think in our picture, the sunlight is just kind of in this corner here. I think I'm going to move it over and darken up this corner here a little bit and kind of keep our light sort of in this general area here. So I think I'm going to bring in some darker clouds sort of around this just a little bit, and then have some clouds kind of coming in here. So I'm just going to mark that out just so I sort of know where I want my light source, and maybe we'll have some clouds kind of coming in front. Now with clouds, they'll be larger at the top, and then as we come down, these ones on the horizon will be very small. It's sort of the opposite of our seas, smaller at the horizon and getting bigger as you come down. So this is the farthest clouds from us are right down here on the horizon. Can't talk tonight. All right, so that'll be good. I'm just kind of making some lines there. I don't know if you can see that very well, but that'll just help me kind of as I'm blocking it in. And then for our seas, I think I might not put as many rocks. It's like all rocks all through here. So I think I might kind of selectively just put in some here, and there's some mountains here, and I might put another mountain or something back here just to balance that out a little bit. So I think that's going to be kind of what we do, maybe a little bit there. All right, so I've just kind of marked out a few little lines. It's very very light, but I will have a traceable for this if you're interested in painting along. I usually make it with the finished painting, so it'll be exactly what I do, and I'll just trace it, and you can use that, and at that point, you know, before you start, you can transfer it onto your canvas. All right, let's see. So we want to make a few colors, I think, before I start. I'll just make it easier to work. So I definitely want kind of a rosy or a like slightly orangey yellow, white for the sky. So I'm going to get a little tiny touch of my yellow and a little tiny touch of my magenta and put it in a big glob of white there, okay? And let's mix that up. That should give us a really pretty like orange, and the orange will be a really good contrast to our blue because it'll be complementary, and so it'll really pop more than just even plain white would in our skies. Just a little touch of that. That'll be good. And I'm not going to use a ton of that, but just a little. Probably didn't need to mix up that much even. And I'm going to do just yellow. Again, just a little bit. Probably what I'm going to end up doing is just grabbing these. Let's add a little bit of something to desaturate it. So I could use, I think I'll just grab my Unbleached Titanium because that's already got like yellow oxide and burnt sienna in it. I could also alternatively have used just a tiny touch of burnt sienna or brown or something like that to desaturate it. I find it easier. I know a lot of artists use like the complementary color to desaturate, but I find that that kind of gives, unless you know the exact complement to whatever color you're mixing, you can get really wildly different blends. So I find it just easier to control my colors to get the color to sort of where I want it to be, and then when I want to desaturate it, then add just a neutral, either brown or yellow oxide or something like that. Just find it easier myself. All right, so there we go. Got that. Let's go ahead and mix up some grays. So I'm going to start with Ultramarine Blue, and I'm not even going to bother changing out my, or cleaning off my knife. Let's go ahead and go with Burnt Sienna. It'll give us like more of a neutral brown gray, or brownish blue, kind of gray. The red in the Burnt Sienna and the reds in the Ultramarine it'll almost make like a purpley gray. And that yellow in my palette knife will actually be a complement, so it'll counteract it and neutralize it even a little bit more. Okay, that's nice. You can already see that color coming out because it's got a little bit of that white in it from that yellow mixture. All right, let's scrape that up. And every time I'm mixing a color, I'm going to scrape it up so that I have it in its most concentrated form, and that way it won't dry out it too fast on me. Let's go ahead and do the same with the Phthalo Blue. Now this is one of my favorite mixtures for water. I'm going to make a lot of it because I'm probably going to use it a lot down here. So I'm going to use Phthalo Blue and Burnt Sienna, and almost 50-50, not quite half Burnt Sienna, but pretty close. So maybe 2 parts Phthalo Blue to 1 part Burnt Sienna, and it's going to make this beautiful teal color. The more Burnt Sienna I make or add, the more neutralized that green blue is going to get. So we'll get a nice neutral teal color, but that Phthalo Blue is so vibrant, it's still going to really be very pretty. Nice deep dark color. Okay, I don't want too much of that yellow to mix with it that was on my palette knife, because I want to have some darker colors to be able to use. So you might, if you still had a lot of yellow on there, you might want to clean that off before you mix that one. And then I am going to clean it off right now because I don't want the Phthalo Blue on there. And I'm going to grab a kind of 50-50 Ultramarine Blue and Burnt Umber. And I almost didn't put black out on my palette because this will make a black. But it's not the darkest black. Like, it's black, it's dark, but it's maybe 1 shade lighter than the darkest black, and so I thought I'd just like to have black as a backup in case I need it. We may not need the black, but we'll see. All right, I think I need a little bit more blue because that's looking kind of brown to me. So I'm going to get a little bit more of that ultramarine blue. I'm probably going to need more ultramarine out of my palette there. So I'm just going to go ahead and get some more while I'm thinking about it. Can you get him? Because he is underneath my feet. Yeah, I know, but just, he's distracting me. Okay, so there we go. So we've got a nice dark black there, blackish gray. I'm going to put out a little bit more blue. All right, I think that'll be good to just give us a starting point, and we can mix into those as we need them. I've got the magenta out in case I want to make a purple, because I think I want to put a little bit of that in the sky. Let's go ahead and just set that aside. All right, let's paint. I'm gonna get my large bright. This is a 12 bright. Bright is just shorter bristles than a flat, so the flat would be out to here. Just gives it a little tighter control. I think I'm going to just use this to kind of block in some colors. And before I start, I'm going to go and spray all of that, and I'm going to spray my canvas just once very lightly. I have a very light mister spray. That just will open up the pores of the canvas, make it easier for the paint to absorb. All right, let's go. So I'm going to start with my lighter colors and then work to dark. So I'm going to get my yellow and a big glob of white. And let's just go ahead and kind of put our lightest light source in, and I think it'll be kind of in this general area, maybe up in here. All right, and then as I move out from that, I'm just going to add these other colors to it. So I'm going to get some of this orangey color. And then maybe let's put some of the orangey color over here. There was a little bit of area that was kind of breaking through with some sun, and down here. And it gets a little bit more white, and just make sure it's nice and bright right in there. And there was kind of a little bit of lighter color sort of down in here. Okay, so that's good. So let's start adding a little bit of our grays. So I'm going to get some of that blue, and I'm going to add it to what I already had. So I'm going to get some of this. That's that pinkish color. And just start to add that in. I'm not loving this brush, so I'm going to switch brushes. It's not giving me enough flexibility. Let me get a Filbert. I've got an 8 Filbert. Alright, so I want to start with a color that's pretty light at first and then work to dark, because that way it's always easier to kind of cover up a lighter color with a dark color than to try to get your light colors back. So, at least for some stuff like sky, I feel like. Yeah, so that'll work. See that? That's a good kind of progression of color there, I think. And we can always add a little bit of our blue-green here too, in some places if we want. Like down low, there was some support, some blue-green. Down low. Just added a little bit of that phthalo blue in with the yellow mixture that I had over here. Get a little bit more white here, maybe a little bit of this yellow, and a little bit of that gray. And I'm just going to kind of be dipping into different colors as I go. And I'm blending it out as I go too, and I want to kind of blend these edges before they fully dry, so don't get too caught up in details right now. We're just trying to kind of block in some color. This will give us something to play off of later. So if you're kind of slow to build your layers, you might just do this section first and then kind of get around, and when you get close to this section, then add that part of yellow, because probably by the time I get over here, that's probably already dry, which is fine. It doesn't have to be wet, but it does kind of give it a little bit softer look when it's still wet. Okay, so I'm liking that so far. Let's do, maybe over here we'll go kind of a little darker. So I'm going to get some of this here, maybe pick up some of that blue that was down here. I'm going to spray this again. Just make sure it's not drying on me. Let's go dark. And Filbert, I'm just really kind of using it to scrub. And that's why I don't want to use like a really like soft brush for this. Like I probably wouldn't want to use my my softer 6100 series brush. Its bristles are not as stiff as this one, and so it could kind of damage them a little bit. Maybe I'm not that worried about these Aspen. They're pretty tough. They can take some abuse. I mean, I'm not like really, you know, jamming it onto the canvas, but I am kind of scrubbing with it side to side a little bit. So it's not ideal to do that with a softer bristled brush. I'm going to get a little bit of glaze since I'm kind of thinned out that paint pretty well. There we go. We've got a nice soft gray green here. And I just want to do a few different tones, so maybe I'll get a little bit more of like a greenish blue and just do like a little bit of that in through here, so that it's like maybe looks like daylight trying to peek through. Get more white. That was a little bit dark. What's going on over there?
I have a question.
Okay.
Well,
You have a question or somebody else has a
somebody
question?
else has a question that I will ask for them
Thank you.
since I'm here. They want to know, so they don't have to use a Grisalla or Grisella? Grisall, Grisalla,
Uh-huh.
or Imprimatur with acrylic? I'm not sure what those are.
I don't know what words
Okay.
you just said to me.
All right, Google.
Okay.
Sorry. I thought you might know.
I'm not really sure are they talking about a brand of acrylics?
It's phrased like they don't have to like prep it or something. GRIS.
Are they saying the black and white like that oil painting technique?
Painting technique to use only shades of one neutral color, such as gray or black. Yeah.
Right.
Grisette.
Yeah.
Grisette, okay.
This is not really a grisette. We're not doing it that way. With that, what I would do is just do probably black and white and then add my tints of color on top, which you could do, but that's not what I'm doing. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, you could do that if you wanted to. Grabbing some of that orangey color.
I shouldn't ask
Adding
questions
that.
with words I don't understand. Or can read. Okay, words more than 4 letters long may not be read.
Funny. Okay. I'm trying to kind of, as you see, I'm kind of trying to get this almost in one go, trying to kind of get it blocked in so that I don't have to do as many layers, because I do want to spend more time on the ground, on the ocean here. So let me get a little bit more of this blue and just put a little bit of it over here, because I kind of like the idea of that blue kind of trying to be daylight, peeking through. Okay. And then I'm going to just mix those two together, the ultramarine blue and phthalo blue. Ultramarine being more of a purpley blue, and phthalo blue being more of a greenish, like turquoisey blue. Together they make like a really nice, just straight up neutral blue. So when you mix those two together, and this one has the burnt sienna, and they both have burnt sienna. So that's the ultramarine blue one, and this is the burnt, oh gosh, that scared me. Wow. My heart's gone now. Holy moly. I was like, hacha!
This is perfect for this.
It is. It's really funny. It's really funny.
Hey, you better be on your best behavior, because we got people from like Morocco and Israel,
Nice.
along with our unusual suspects. Okay, I
That's
now
awesome.
have a dog fully in my lap.
Yeah.
He is.
Good luck
He's like,
typing.
heck no,
Dad,
I'm coming in.
I need you.
He just,
Oh, yeah. Fully on your lap. Yeah. Poor pupper. He hates that.
okay.
Okay. So here I'm just kind of very lightly touching in. Once your paint starts to dry, and these areas are kind of like still sort of wet, you don't want to mess with that. So don't come back and try to add layers to any of this section right now, because even just like doing that little bit, it was trying to lift on me. And what happens is the acrylics will start to bond with each other. The molecules start to bond as they dry and harden, and they'll bond right onto your brush. They get sticky there before they harden. So it's like there's just like this little critical area of time when you're painting that you just have to stop messing with the paint, because if you mess with it while it's doing its drying, it is going to lift or stick to your brush and then lift off the canvas. And you'll end up with a canvas that is bare in that area, and literally you can just keep trying to put paint on there. It won't do it unless you put like a big glob of paint, but which you don't really necessarily want to do. All right, so let's do like a big dark thing in this area. So let's get this color here, and just the whole rest of this top part here, I'm just gonna You can see I'm kind of putting it on by I'm smushing sort of the side of the brush to sort of lay down that paint. I could also be using like my Deerfoot Stippler or something for this, but this is working, so if it's working, I don't mess with it. But, you know, if you get to the point where it was like this brush was just not doing it, it wasn't going to be able to get these Mark always teases that I'm putting my brushes on the bench, you know, if they don't behave.
Time out.
You're on timeout, yeah.
This is what we got going on right now.
This is what I'm looking at over on the other side of the studio. The eyes are very, concerned. There's a lot of, like, you guys not hearing this.
We need to stop now.
Yeah. I think we need to take shelter. Yeah, if Fitzy could talk, he'd be like, tornado. Pretty sure that was a tornado. Go to the storm shelter. All right. I'm going to pull out this brush now and do some refining with this. Let me see. You can kind of tell if it's shiny, whether or not it's dry or not. Some paints are kind of shiny though, so that's not a perfect tell, but okay, I think that'll do. All right, so we got some good areas here. So I think I'm going to put some kind of movement in these and kind of try to feel like there's some movement coming down. I like in the picture how there's some lines through the clouds through there. So let's do that, and then we'll deepen up some of these colors too. And I also think I'm going to use some of this darkest color here and add just a little bit of magenta to it to make it kind of purple, and then wipe it out. So with this brush, I don't want to have a lot of water in the brush, and I don't want to have a lot of paint, at least when I'm doing this kind of scumbling type of technique that I'm going to be doing here. So just want to kind of lightly push that paint in. And it's kind of laying down a little too much, so I'm just going to pick up a little bit more of that lighter color and sort of come in the opposite direction with it. I can tell that I've got some, I haven't really wiped it clean enough, but it's fine. I'm able to control it. It's not too bad. But let's go ahead and put in kind of a dark cloud coming through here, and I'm setting that brush down and kind of just leaving it on the canvas. I'm not lifting it, and just twisting it as I'm moving around. I don't want to stay in the same place too long, or I could start pulling the paint off of the canvas, but I think that's good. Okay, that doesn't look great right there, so I think I'm gonna let's see, what color do I want to do? Let's get some of the ultramarine blue mixture with some of this yellow here. I'm just gonna kind of push that back a little bit. Ooh, that's dark. What are you laughing at?
He was laying down across my arms. Second, I just said, after we just start.
Okay.
This isn't good.
No, guys, this is not. Guys,
This is not.
I think we need to exit the studio here. It literally has not rained in weeks,
Yeah.
and it's all of a sudden raining.
again,
during the
it's
show. It is. It's
Good
timely.
ambiance.
Timely. Yep,
couldn't buy this.
that's true.
Ooh.
That was a strong. There's some like it's just like a lot of lightning. It's very very noisy. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna put the darker color kind of excuse me, in front of some of this, and then I'm gonna come back in and add some like little white bits to like highlight those clouds. So I do want some white. Let me go ahead and get white now, and I'm gonna leave it a little bit more on my brush this time and kind of highlight a little bit with this. Just start to, and I can also use my Zinc White for this too. I think I'll go a little bit darker in that corner. I'm just blending out. Okay. A lot of colors going on here. I think I might want to make sure I'm not putting too many colors in here. I don't want it to look too colorful. Let me get some of that purple added over here. Okay.
Okay, we have another question.
All right.
This one I know I can ask.
If you don't have a Deerfoot Stippler, would a round blender work here? Yeah, I'll use my blender and you can see. Yeah, I do have a round blender from the I think that one's called blender. Yeah, round blender from the Select. And it's the same kind of materials, so it'll work just fine. I'm not going to wet it down. I'm just trying to decide what color I want to use here. I think I'm going to use some of this orangey color. It's looking too light mostly, but we're gonna overlap these white areas, so I'm not worried about that. I'm just kind of wanting to slowly cover them, I don't want to cover too much too soon. All right, so I think I'm gonna do kind of a diagonal something here and cover most of this light blue with that, and also kind of cut into some of these white areas that I have. And I put down that light color first so that it would blend when I do this. And if it's not kind of laying or going in well, you can use a little bit of that glazing medium too. And that will kind of make it a little bit translucent. And then you can pick up a little bit more paint on your brush and you don't have to wipe it out as much. So instead of wiping it out, I'm using glaze to make it translucent. Okay. So right now it kind of feels like there's like 3 like faces in there, almost like eyes or something. So I'm just going to cut through some of this and cut those into pieces. I think. Really, this is, however, what you want it to be. So you can just look up any pictures of clouds. It does not have to be. Obviously, I'm not going by the photo, but I have like multiple photos here that I'm looking at and pulling things that I like about them from the photos. So, it's good to have good references, but you don't have to paint them exactly like what you see. You can clouds are especially pretty easy to sort of manipulate and do different things with. I think I want to just kind of I'm just going over that area with that orangey color. You can see right there it's trying to lift on me, so that area was probably not super dry. And I'm going to get some Zinc White here and put some of that in. There we go. And think about where your light source is. So if my light source is here, some of the cloud face that's facing those might get some light. So if I have a cloud like right in here, it could be catching a little bit of light, just, you know, just in some places. And this is, I'm kind of treating this like a little bit of an open sky area though, so it's not necessarily a cloud lit up there. Watch your shapes too. You don't want to make any weird shapes. Make sure you're not making any. It's just like, okay. Exactly. You don't want any BOO beep clouds or anything like that, so watch that. All right. All right, we're getting closer. It's this clouds are one of those things where it's like bad, 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 worse, bad, good. It's like it goes from it's very hard to determine how it's going until you kind of hit the right layering on them. You will be convinced that you're doing it wrong. So just keep going. Stop and often and kind of look at it. See if there's anything that looks kind of funky. A lot of times it is just that you go in with too much paint too quickly and you end up with solid clods of paint or solid chunks of, you know, really brick-like clouds, and that throws the whole thing off. So just be very delicate, light with your application of paint at first, and just really the whole time. Just kind of go slow. You want those under layers to start to show through a little bit. So if you go in just too thick with a bunch of paint, then they start looking heavy and they don't look like clouds anymore. That's usually the problem when I see people having problems with clouds, is that they've just laid on too much paint. So that's why I like telling people to wipe their brushes off and do it that way, because it's a little bit easier to control when you don't have the paint on your brush to, you know, mash it around. Okay. All right, so we're getting some really good moodiness. I think I want like a nice dark, and let's cut into this. So right now our shape is just kind of like an oval. So I want to kind of make it a little bit more of a wedge right here maybe. So let's get this ultramarine blue color and a little bit of that glaze. And yeah, let's just kind of make a shape here, pull it down a little bit more. And I don't have to have it solid from here to here. It can be the same cloud but still have, you know, they have ripples and things in them, so they're not solid all the way through just because you've got one cloud here and another cloud here. These, even within the cloud, it's got a lot of variation, so I don't have to go with the same color here too. think I'm going to switch back to my, actually, let's try it with this blender here. See what if we like it. And maybe I'm sticking with this. It seems like it's doing the color that I want. So I'm gonna do a little bit more darkness coming up here. Coming across. So this brush is a blender, and it's gonna give me a little bit more precision, especially on these smaller clouds on the horizon. So it'll be a little bit easier to control where they're going. And I think I want a little bit of it overlapping here so that it looks like there's some distance there. I'm just doing some kind of horizontal little lines here. All right, we're getting there. This is starting to look pretty good. I like it. Get a little bit of that. Get a little bit of that darker blue. Let's spray this down again because it's starting to want to dry on me. And let me see, I might be able to, I don't think this is fully dry yet. Let's see. I'm very lightly touching this because I know that this is probably getting sticky. And I don't want to wipe that off, so I'm just gonna kind of add a little bit of darkness in here. Probably need to go to daddy. I'm just using this brush to kind of sop up some of that color. Okay, see, you can see the canvas kind of coming through, so I'm gonna leave this alone. She says, and lifts off more paint. Okay, that's fine. We can always lay down more paint, but it's just when it starts doing that and you keep adding more paint, that's when you really start having problems, because that problem just spreads and spreads. Kind of like glitter, just a little bit. Hi, go away, please. I love you, but I'm trying to work. Okay, Mom, do you need me? You're not scared? Are you scared? I'm here for you.
It's all done. So you gonna put your bed under there?
Okay, getting some of my light color now, and I've got some kind of hard edges here, so I think I want to just kind of get a little bit of, so if you've got any area where you've got a color that went on and didn't blend out and you kind of want to blend it out, you can get the color that's kind of the background or some other lighter color that's kind of close-ish to the background color. It doesn't have to be exact, and then get that color that you used, if you still have it, and then just kind of attack those edges a little bit and it'll blend out. Okay.
And since I wasn't paying attention at the beginning, are you using Payne's Gray?
No. No, Payne's Gray is Ultramarine Blue and Black. So, but you could use that instead. It would work. It's a beautiful color. This one is mostly Ultramarine Blue and Burnt Sienna, so it's a little bit more colorful than Payne's Gray. All right. I mean, I don't hate that, but it's looking a little heavy. This is what I'm talking about with the, heavy paint application. And I still am going to add my, glow onto the clouds with the white, so I need to kind of prep it and make sure my background is all kind of done before I do that. Get a little bit more of this yellow and this blue here. Add some more up here. Again, just kind of, I'm putting it on fairly thick here. I've got my enough on my brush, but I'm using a very light touch. So if you have a lot of paint on your brush or, you know, decent amount of paint on your brush, a light touch. If you have very little paint, then you could really scrub. So just make sure that, you know, you're altering how hard you're pressing down. If you've got a ton of paint on your brush, you don't want to press down very hard because that's why you get a really solid coverage and you don't want that. Okay. Let's bring in some diagonal here. And then I'm just going to grab some of that yellow and some of my white. Spray this all down. Everything's drying out on me. I'm going to wipe that out because I have a lot of it on there. And I'm going to kind of tack that and push it back a little bit. And I think this is dry enough now. I can kind of go over that a little bit, just soften that off. Okay, and then just kind of look at it and see if there's any areas that look funky or you think are too unblended or whatever. Kind of do those now. Might use a little bit more of the green down here.
Got a question about whites.
Okay.
What's the difference between Tidy Whitey and zinc?
Zinc is more transparent, so titanium white is very opaque. It's like one of the most opaque colors you can use. And the zinc white is transparent. It's a different pigment that they use in it, so it doesn't block the light. So you can put it, layer it, and it will be translucent. And so it's sometimes it's mixed with titanium white and called mixing white. So if you see a tube of paint called mixing white, it is, where is my mixing white? I have some right here. Mixing white is 50-50, I think, or I don't know what the actual ratio is. I'm guessing it's about 50-50. That's what I usually do when I'm kind of trying to use something like that. I was trying to see if it showed the pigments on here. PW6. So I guess zinc white must have the same pigment. Let me see. PW6. Titanium white and zinc white is PW4. So that one's a Newton, probably is not what I know to be mixing white. It says it's mixing white, but it normally mixing white would be half titanium and half zinc. So I don't know how they make it translucent in that one, but that it's great for clouds. It works really good. So, and especially for like if I have an area here, so I'll grab some of the zinc white and show you. So say down here, we want to add some white clouds. It's going to just be really soft along, especially along the edges where it starts to fade out. I'm just going to brush across and kind of soften everything off on that horizon. I'm just going to pretend like there's no rocks going in here so that we have a nice straight horizon line. Okay, and then the titanium white, if I use that, it would be much more obvious. I'll use it up here. It's going to cover, and it's not, you can kind of thin it out, but the pigment in it blocks the light, so that's what makes it opaque. And So it won't have the same translucency as the zinc white. Now you can still get titanium white, you know, thinned out and be, you know, somewhat translucent, but it will still be an opaque color, you know. All right, this is looking really pretty. I like this. I'm gonna clean that out because it still had some blue in there. And I'm gonna get my white and continue using this. So I can do these little rimmed areas on the clouds. So I think I want to do this one and maybe add just a little bit of this yellow to it. I think I want to do all of these ones that are kind of coming down here, like it maybe as if the light is catching them. So I'm just gonna kind of tap along there. I'm not really gonna have to blend it too much because those are kind of facing the light. Just kind of using my finger to sort of soften off. So let's do a little bit here. I'm going to go a little bit more right there since it's so close to the sun. And then maybe this one has some on it. Something like that. And then let's do this one, and it's going to be kind of underneath. Kind of clouding it out right there. And I could even use a liner brush, and I think I might do that to really get like a really fine, get a little bit of that zinc white too. Get like a really fine line on here. And let's maybe pull in just a little bit in here, like okay. I think I might have done too much outlining. I don't want it to look outlined. So there's like a fine line. Kind of want it to be broken up a little bit. So I think what I'm gonna do is just kind of cover over just a little bit of that that white in there, just like right in here. Just kind of go with a more neutral white instead of a bright white right there. Just there we go. Okay, now that's a little bit better, I think. Okay. Let's put just a little bit over here. There we go. Just a tiny bit. And then maybe some there. Go a little bit brighter right here. Maybe there's a little tiny bit peeking through right under there. And then maybe down low. See, I'm kind of making it broken, not not too solid there. Okay. Very pretty. Looks like a little Sistine Chapel, something, you know. Those clouds breaking through. Really pretty. Okay. Oh. I am not comparing myself to Michelangelo. I'm just saying it's that style. It reminds me of like a, you know, that kind of a style painting here. It's turning into that at least.
Mike only wishes.
What?
Mike only wishes you could hang. Just saying.
Mike with the YouTube channel, forget about it. Van Gogh, I would watch Van Gogh. He would have been fun to watch. From what I read, I did a book about him, or not a book about it, but like a paper about him in college, and he had a fiery temper. He did not get along with a lot of people. A lot of opinions, so. Genius is often that way. Okay, I think I'm good with that sky. I think I'm pretty happy with how it looks. I might make it a little bit darker in some places, but I think I'm just gonna let it dry for now, and we'll get going on the sea because we got a lot to do here. So, all right, can we zoom out a ton so I can see what we're doing? I'm gonna scrape off my work here, the palette, so I have room to work. All my orange is gone. So I'll have to mix some more of that up. This is a glass palette. It's called Posh Glass Palette. It's in my Amazon shop if you're looking for one. There. I really like it because I can scrape off my workspace and keep working and not have to move my paints to another palette. Come on. My scraper gets time for a new blade. It is all... Yep, all gunked up. Oh, all right, let's get going here. So I want this to dry. I think it's dry enough. I'm gonna go ahead and put tape on it. And make sure my tape is level. So I'm gonna grab my T-square and just lay that on there. I think I'm gonna have to put my tape sort of This is delicate surface tape. You can also use just regular painter's tape, the blue kind, or there's a tape called artist tape. Okay, so I need to go to right about there. Right. Do not stick it onto the back of your paper canvas because you will tear it. I knew that because I did it, and that's what this channel is about, is just like what I've done that didn't work. What not to do. I'm just kind of trying to save you the hassle of making all the mistakes that I made. Does that seem straight? It seems like it's going down on this side. Let me make sure it didn't warp as it went down. No, it's straight. Okay, it's just my glasses. My glasses make it so hard to know if things are level anymore. Everything looks crooked because I have such a high prescription. It's like anything that's not like right here just kind of falls off. It's hard being blind. Okay. I I do want some light on the water, but I'm going to go ahead and start dark and just kind of paint in the seas dark and then work back from there. And I think I'm going to use some of this dark black that had the ultramarine blue. I think I'm going to do ultramarine blue in the deeper ocean area, back, and then go a little bit lighter as we come forward with the phthalo blue. More greens and things. I'm just going to go across, and I don't want very wet paint here because I don't want it to seep under. If you're worried about it or your tape's not good, you can paint with a layer of like matte medium or something like that to seal up that the matte medium will seep underneath the tape, and then it'll, when you paint your paint over it, it won't go under the tape. I'm going to get a little bit of the white and just kind of right in the area where the sun's going to be, just kind of lighten that area right there. Go across. You want no big details back here, so we want it to be very small brush strokes, small horizontal brush strokes, and then as we get closer we can go bigger. Okay, let me get some of this phthalo. We are going to put rocks in, but I think I'm just going to kind of lay in some water here around sort of the areas that I think the rocks are going to be. So definitely going to have some rocks right in here. You can see how it's kind of breaking up like this. That's called dry brushing. It's just when you don't have a lot of paint in your brush and it kind of adds the texture to the canvas. And then I do use that sometimes when I'm painting ocean, but right now I'm not wanting that. I just want it to cover. So I'll get a little bit more water on my brush and a little bit more paint, and it won't do that as much. And I'm trying to keep my brush strokes sort of horizontal. Remember, our waves are going to be higher at the top of them, and then they're going to flatten out. All the water wants to go flat. It wants to lay flat. When we have ocean surges and things like this with these stormy seas, you're going to have these waves kind of crashing into each other where they're going flat, and they're going to, you know, cause ripples and things, or the peaks where they're coming together will kind of crash up. So there's a little bit more movement in this ocean, but we're still not going to see that unless our perspective is really low, or these waves are really high up above where we're standing. We're still going to be looking down on them. So we're not going to have our big rolling waves on the horizon line at all. It's still going to be straight, even if we have this big surging sea. The only way that we would not see that the horizon line as being straight is if we were down low and we were looking kind of more through the waves, and the waves in front of us were actually coming up above the horizon line. Does that make sense? So we'd have to have our perspective looking down below the horizon line for us to be able to have a kind of waving ocean. And in that case, I would probably have raised the line of the horizon up higher so that it would also already feel like we were looking up. And then we could have our waves kind of coming up over and doing things. And you've probably seen paintings like that. we're gonna come up above the horizon a little bit right in here. You can see it does, but we can still see the horizon back here straight. So we're doing a little bit of both. So we're not low, but we're not all the way down below the horizon line. The horizon line is still going to be straight. Okay, you get the idea. I'm repeating the same thing. Now, okay, that looks good. So I'm taking my tape off before it dries all the way because I don't want it to lift off anything, but so far so good. Let's go ahead and do some kind of, maybe a little bit of almost brownish green in this bottom area here. So I'm going to get the Unbleached Titanium, which again is kind of a white that has some burnt umber and yellow oxide in it. So it's like a little bit of a dirty white. It's just a nice one to have. Yeah, there we go. So we mix that with the Phthalo blue, and that yellow in it is going to make it look a little bit more green. So that's going to be nice for kind of a more highlighted, almost muddy green color. Still a pretty color though. And if you just wanted to go more grays, you could do that too. So you could get just your Phthalo or Ultramarine Blue and burnt umber colors and use those for this whole thing if you didn't want a lot of blue in it. So I think it still feels to me like a, kind of stormy even with the more blue, but I might use a little bit more of this black back in here just to kind of darken it up a little bit. Maybe a little bit of phthalo blue with that. A little bit of water just to make it flow. My paint's starting to get kind of dry. This area down here in our picture is kind of a little bit more calm than this area up here, so because it's sort of in the rocks. I think that was one of the my thoughts too, was to open this up a little bit with less rocks so that we could have a little bit more violent waves in here too. Let me just go ahead and put some black in here, and we can decide which ones we want to be rocks and which ones we want to be ocean here in a minute. And now I'm starting to kind of get a little bit more movement as I'm putting these waves in, kind of doing some side to side sweeps. It's sort of like that, Okay. Well, keeping it mostly side to side. As we get away from like middle, none of this past middle is going to have much of anything but like lines. So we don't want any of these big surging waves coming from up here. They're all going to come from down in here and lower, closer to us. All we're going to be able to see back here are maybe some swells, but from this far away, they're not going to be identifiable as huge waves. Okay, I'm going to get some more white here, added some of that darker color back here, and I'm going to just use the tip of that brush and just sort of highlight back some of those. If you have your dark, you're going to put your light on top. if I have a dark line here and I want to add a highlight, I'm going to put it on top right there. Let's go ahead and fill this in before that dries. Okay, what time is it? My thing is not showing the bar down there anymore. It's covered up by my pictures. Used to be I could see the time when I had stuff down there. Can't see anything. What?
7:10.
Okay, great. All right, so we took almost an hour for the sky, which is probably about what I would think for a sky that complicated. Okay. All right, so now we've got some nice different colors in our sea. We've got some light hitting it in different places. That looks pretty good. Now I'm going to want to switch to a brush that has a little bit more angular, like a flat brush or an angle brush for my rocks. If they were rounded rocks, I could leave my, use a Filbert or something like that. But having these rocks are a little bit more angular, I'm gonna, I think, grab a flat. I think I want a smaller one than that. Let me see what I got. Yeah, I think I'll use that. That's a 6 bright. And this is a good time to kind of clean out your brushes if they are sitting off to the side and haven't been cleaned, or at least dip them in the water to keep them wet before you get the chance to clean them. Okay. Let's do any of the little sea foam and things that we want to do back here before we put our rocks in front. So I do want to kind of soften off. I can see where my horizon there got a little bit of the blue on it, so I'm just gonna take my ultramarine blue here and some of my, maybe a little bit of that yellow and some white, and I'm not worried about it being perfect. I just want to kind of soften off that. In fact, I can kind of go over the whole thing in that area and try to just sort of bring that whole area down in color a little bit right there, and use my finger to soften it off. If you have like a really obvious line there, then you will have to go in with like a little bit of white to make it more opaque so that it will cover. Okay, that looks good. So let's get a little bit of the white, and let's see where my light is hitting. Maybe it's hitting on my water here. I'm just gonna use this flat brush and just kind of tap across in a couple places and create some lines. See that? Just a little bit of highlights on the water. Might go a little bit. Bit more solid. They should get bigger as we come down, so when I get down here, I'm gonna press down a little bit more and do a little bit bigger. So right up against the horizon line, you're gonna have the tiny little lines, and then as they come down, they're gonna get bigger and bigger. Okay, that's good. Let's see, maybe the light is peeking through the clouds in just a few places. Over there too. And then maybe like right in here. And we kind of put it in with a little bit of variation back there, but it might add just a little bit more of a mid-tone in there and kind of give it those areas a little bit of detail. And try to keep those pretty horizontal, these little lines that I'm doing. Okay, that's good. Now we can add just a little indication of some surf in a couple of places. So maybe just kind of tapping in some little thicker areas. Again, keeping it really small back here. I do have a tutorial about perspective when it comes to oceans. It's one of the, I think it was the first part of last year. It's like a blue, it's got a very similar color scheme to this, but the whole beginning part of it, we did a whole little lesson on perspective when we talked about how, what sizes of the waves. But basically, if you did a cone shape and say you have a wave that's a certain size down here, then from side to side, if you did a cone, all of the waves back here would be that are the same size as this. As they get farther away, they're getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay, so that's kind of maybe a little easier way of remembering it. I don't think that was a very clear lesson, but you get the idea.
It was like every half.
Every half gets half the size, so half the distance from the horizon.
See, I remember.
Yeah. So a wave that's this big here is going to be half that size when it gets half to the horizon, and then half again is half again, half again is half again. So it's, once you get up here, those lines get really small and the distances get shorter between them. Okay, we're looking good. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow just because I can. And got some pretty yellow waves back, or skies right in there, so maybe some of that is catching the yellow from the ocean. Okay, and I think I want to go ahead and put in our rocks, so let's go ahead and grab this brown. I might even grab some of that black, and we'll just start putting in some of our rocks back in back here. And I want to make sure these are also level with the water. And they can come down, they're going to come down a little bit into the water, but still from this distance, they're going to pretty much look flat. So I just mean flat at the horizon line, or, at the water line.
Because the earth is flat.
Yes, honey. All right, and this is something we're going to talk about next week, is the one that's the farthest distance. I'm going to make a little bit lighter. Yeah, a little bit more sky color in there. And next week we're going to talk about creating distance in landscapes. So it's a little preview right there. Okay, I'm going to get some white and mix that with this and just add a little bit of texture on those. Okay. And I probably could have made those bigger. They're probably bigger in the picture, but it's fine. I can make them whatever size I want. It's my painting. This is, like Bob Ross says, this is your world. You can do it however you want. And that guy, I loved him. I still do. growing up, though. He's what made me want to paint. So I love that I get to do. Never really thought watching him that I would be doing something similar. Any, you know, when I grew up, but I love getting to teach. Definitely can't do the oil painting techniques with acrylics, though. That's for sure. Doesn't work. I tried. I actually dropped out of my art, my painting class in college because I got so frustrated with trying to get my acrylics to do what Bob Ross's oil paints were doing. It's like, I obviously can't do this. All right, so there we go. Just kind of doing the bigger one on that side, changing it up. Why not? I'm gonna get a little bit of that white, and of course our light's gonna go on the side facing the light. So okay, we'll let that dry. Put a little bit more light on this one. Fun. Now we get to decide where we want to put our rocks. And really at this point you could even just do big ocean swells, however you want to. See, last week this one was very expressive. I really like this style though, and I don't paint in this style because I get too caught up in details. But I love the expressive brushstrokes that we got just in a like 10-20 minute painting. I don't even know how long that took when we were talking about, you know, waves and things last week. But I think this one where our waves are coming from behind and we're not seeing like the front side of the splash. So we're kind of missing the build up to it. So I might do kind of a combo of that and maybe do a little bit of a overlap in here somewhere or over here where we're getting to see a little bit of that swell, because I do like that part of a wave where it's trying, you know, crashing up onto the rocks. But I think you're wanting to make sure that your background is pretty much done. I'm going to get a little bit more white here and maybe add a few more little cresting things happening back there. Most of this is going to get covered up, so I don't know why I was spending so much time on it. It's not even going to be visible, but in case it shows, we'll have it. So I'm kind of just dragging my brush and doing little zigzaggy lines now. Okay, it doesn't feel very stormy yet, so we need to get it going, get it a little bit more violent looking out here. Maybe we get a little bit of burnt umber with this. And start building those rocks out. And you kind of pretty much want the bottoms of these rocks to be fairly flat. So tops can be pretty much, you know, whatever shape you want them to be, where they meet the water, mostly flat. The ones here in the foreground we're going to see more because we're looking down on them. But if you're looking at something that's rounded from a distance, it's going to start to look flat. I don't have something to show you what I'm talking about, but trust me. So just keep that in mind when you're doing these smaller ones that are in the distance. Okay, so let's do a nice big one. So maybe there's some space. Here, I don't like that. I don't know what that is right there. White dot. Maybe there's some space here, and there's one that's kind of that we can see right here. We'll do that coming out this way. Though I don't want it to mimic that shape. So you see what I did there? I kind of have two that are almost identical. I don't want that, so I'm gonna maybe move that back. And do that instead. Maybe flatten it out right there and then bring it across. Okay, and then right in here I need to straighten that out a little bit. So I want the I'm gonna bring this down. Rock in front here. Okay, so maybe we can have our swells kind of going this way and spraying up right in this area, and then maybe another little set of rocks right in here. Just trying to give it a little bit of room to have some sort of a wave going. It's got to make sense though, so I don't want to get too crazy with this. How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Good. All right. And then maybe let's do another, trying to think of where else I want to put something. Maybe there's something right here. That just goes off. Yeah, so this won't be quite as big as this, but do want to think about the fact that these rocks are going to get bigger as we're, you know, the same rock, the same size rock, I should say. You know, rocks are all different sizes, so this might just be a small rock, but if it's the same size as this rock, it needs to be bigger than that one because it's closer down to us, right? So maybe make it a little bit bigger. And I'm going to bring this one up because this one is a little bit higher in the picture. Bring that one up a little bit more. Give that wave something to crash against. Okay, I think we're getting pretty close to where I want to be. Yeah, that looks nice. It's got some good movement, different sizes, different shapes. There, okay. And let's go ahead and use some yellow in my phthalo green. That's going to be really green. So we need to neutralize it. So I'm going to use that burnt sienna, which is basically like what we were doing when we were using this phthalo green and the yellow, because remember, but this one just doesn't have the same colors, but this one doesn't have the white in it. So this will be kind of a muddy green that we can use for some of this. I'm going to start to create my little storm surges. Again, I want to keep it pretty low. The ones that are closest to us are going to be the biggest. Down here, it's like they're a little bit kind of more like spent, you know, they're sort of just swells. So I'm not going to go really big on these ones, but I am going to kind of add some of this green in some places. And it's kind of coming at an angle down a little bit more. Getting some white. This is the Zinc White with my unbleached, or my glazing medium. Put a little bit of that in there. It'll just be a little bit more translucent version, but still not too crazy. It's not going to cover anything really. It's just going to kind of merge those colors a little bit. And I'm not worried about going over my rocks at this point, so if you get a little bit of this white over your rocks, that's fine, because we're going to clean those up. But I kind of just needed to know where they were so I can build around them with this storm surge and colors and things. So I'm going to go ahead and start to build out. Now around these rocks the wave is kind of coming up over, so I'm going to get some darker color and put that ocean color in there. So I want it to kind of spray up right here a little bit. And then I think it's going to kind of come up from here. So we might see a little bit of it before it does this. And then on this side too, you have to have that dark color. You can't just come in with white, because our waves have this deep blue down in them. There's just a little bit of it that shows right as it's hitting that rock, and so it's almost indistinguishable where your rock ends and the wave begins right there. So let's do that. Maybe this is kind of the same wave. We can kind of have them kind of sort of connected. These are kind of the same height, so I might just bring those two together a little bit right there. And right there I kind of got a little bit too high, so I'm going to get a little bit of a lighter color and kind of blend back over that a little bit. This is my yellow and that green. We can Scribbling back and forth a little bit. I'm trying to create some movement, pushing those waves up a little bit, and then letting them go flat in areas too. So down here it might be flat. As it's getting closer to the rocks, it's kind of surging up a little bit. Okay, we're getting there. Get some more blue here. Thinking about where my light's hitting. The area down here below the rock is going to be sharper. We're going to have a sharper edge down here on the bottom parts of these rocks, because that line is going to be more defined by that water. But the upper area is where we're going to have a lot of movement and things happening. So I'm going to use some of that light green coming up over the light hitting through. Oftentimes as the wave kind of comes up, it's going to catch the light. So especially in this area where that wave is right over the water, or the right over the sun, I'm going to add a little bit of that yellow. And then I'm going to blend it down into that dark because I don't want it to look too bright. Okay, that's nice. Yeah, I didn't go very violent with this, did I? I'm kind of keeping it a little bit more like lightly violent.
Like pre-storm.
Yeah.
Pre-stormy weather.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Right, because in a real storm, all of this would be covered over. There would not be any rocks shown except for, you know, you'd see the ripples and stuff. But all right, using white now to add little zigzaggy foam. I like to just kind of drag without lifting, and you can kind of twist it side to side just a little bit to get some variation, but it creates nice little foam. You could also drag it on its side. And I'm trying to keep it kind of small, so I don't want to get too big with these. Can also add some lighter blues, so get some of that light blue, phthalo blue mixed in, and use some of that in the foam. And I also want to leave some areas kind of alone to let your eye rest too. So think about where you want to direct the attention. That's where you're going to put your most contrasted colors and things. Okay, so not sure what's happening there. There's kind of a lull in between, so I'm going to just add a mid-tone because I have like just dark and just light right there. So a mid-tone will help kind of blend those two together. Just adding a little bit of that phthalo blue there. Now that kind of feels like those could be part of the same wave. Let's add some of that over here. A little bit of that blue in this one too. It's coming up. And you can use it kind of where the wave comes down flat too. Okay, not hating that. I lightened up that area a lot, so I'm going to get a little bit more of my darker color and just put that back in right in here and just blend up with that. Just make sure I've got some really nice dark areas. And if you need to know where to put your light or your dark areas, you're always going to pretty much put them underneath a light area. So I've got some light area here. I would put my dark kind of right up near underneath. If you've got a mid-tone, even better, you can put it under the mid-tone. But I can go just a little bit over that light area and create a mid-tone by just blending them two a little bit together. All right, that's good. Let's add some detail to our rocks now. So our water's pretty close to where I want it to be. We can start adding our foam and sea surge and highlights, brightest highlights and things. But we need a little detail on our rocks. So I'm gonna get maybe some of the phthalo blue or I'm sorry, burnt umber, burnt sienna, and some of this ultramarine blue and burnt umber mixture, and then maybe some of the unbleached titanium. Maybe we'll want it a little bit more blue than that. Okay, we'll see. I don't want to introduce another color at this point that's too out of what we've already been using. That's why I really limited my palette. So, but I do have some blue. Let me add this blue to it. Some of that ultramarine blue and burnt sienna color. And I'm just going to kind of start carving out some of the rock shapes. And you don't have to do the whole rock. Like, there's parts of it that are black, so don't put this on everything. You're just going to kind of carve out where you think some of that rock is and pull. Kind of set it down on the edge and pull down until it sort of breaks up a little bit. So we're trying to get it to do that dry brush thing that it was doing before. This is kind of our mid-tone, so this won't be super bright yet. This one's kind of got some brightness. Back here, off to the side, we're not going to be getting a lot of detail. We don't want to have a ton of detail back there, so I'm just going to kind of barely tap and just kind of do a couple little edges. I might bring that dark down a little bit more, a couple more rocks. Okay, looks good.
Which brush are you using?
This is the 6 Bright from Aspen. The long-handled series. My brush set is out, or going to be out soon. I know. Now I can talk about it.
You can.
Yeah, I can't say which brushes are in it.
Ooh.
There, I can tell you they're the short-handled Aspen. Yeah, I can peek the little end of it. It says my name right there. That's all I can show you, but I'm super excited. So those should be out later on this year, I think. I'm not sure what the timeline is, but they're waiting on my video, so I got to do the tutorial for it and send that in, and then I think shortly thereafter it should be coming out. So I'll be sure when we get closer to let you guys know, because I don't know what stores or anything they're going to be in. I've asked for, some areas that I can tell people to go buy it if they're interested. But very, very honored to be working with Princeton. They're my favorite brush company. Been using them exclusively for almost the whole time I've been on YouTube, really. Some of my older videos have other brushes in them, but when I discovered the 6100 series, I kind of didn't look back because they were tough and durable. Like, they were durable but soft. It's hard to find a soft brush that's durable that also washes well, and it doesn't ruin, because soft brushes are so soft and they're so delicate, and they break down easily. Those brushes are really tough. And then they sent me some of the VelvetTouch that I really liked, and those are even softer though. So those do kind of break down a little bit faster just because they're really soft. What? Oh, you just snapped at me. You didn't? What was that snap?
I picked up my headphones and
Oh, I thought you were trying to get my attention.
hey.
No, that's okay. I thought I was saying something I wasn't supposed to be saying. I was like, what am I saying?
I don't want everybody to think that I snap at you to get your attention. That is not a thing.
No, it's not. Not a dog. Anyhow, I don't know what I was saying. Oh, then they sent me the Aspen, and I really like the Aspen for things like this where I want some texture and things. They really work well. So, all right. So again, highlights on top, wherever it's facing the light. These are kind of away from the light, so we're not getting as much light. If this was facing the light, like maybe the rocks, if you were looking at it from this direction where the light was hitting the rock directly, we might have a brighter highlight on there. We would have a brighter highlight on there. So I might use a brighter color. I might add a little bit of highlight on the top of some of these because they are kind of, we did add a little bit more light. So I'm just going to use some Unbleached Titanium to mix in with this lighter gray. And I kind of usually start with the dark and then go mid-tone and then do the highlights on top. So this is not the final product here that we're doing. We still have one more layer that we'll add. This one's pretty much got the final layer on it. Got that highlight layer on it. These ones that are down here, we're looking more down on them, so we can actually kind of, go a little bit more horizontal with these lines. Okay. I like this one. I like that I lightened it up. I didn't want it moody, but not too gray, if that makes sense. Like, I wanted a little color in it. It's just not a gray person. I say that, but I've got a lot of gray in my house.
Well, now I need to go dye my hair.
That color. Well, that's true. I am a gray person if you think about the hair color.
And my
We're
truck.
not talking about hair color. What?
And my truck.
Yeah, and your gray truck. Yeah. And your new car, too. That's gray. So I'm going to get a little bit more of that unbleached titanium right here. I'm going across, and I'm just going to lay that brush down almost on its side to get this broken line. And see how that brush will kind of glide. I find that the thicker paints are better, so like thicker paints kind of are more grabby. It grabs on the canvas a little bit better. So if you have a heavy body acrylic, they work better for this technique. You can still do it with like a craft or a fluid acrylic, but you have to take most of the paint out of your brush if you're using a super fluid paint. I do have a tutorial about using different kinds of paint. I think it's called Blending with Different Acrylics. And I think we dry brush in that one too. I show kind of how. All right, starting to put in some highlights now. I'm trying to decide how much I want to do on that one. That was gonna, I kind of don't like that one yet. It's not done. I have to have these internal talks while we while I paint. I don't like that. Well, you're not done yet. Just it's okay. You need to do that too when you're painting, because a lot of times it can go, I don't like that, I'm quitting, like if you get frustrated. So you gotta give yourself a pep talk every now and then. Acrylics can be frustrating. Sometimes it doesn't look the way you want it to. So just be like, well, it's not done yet, so be quiet. This is me talking to my own brain, so. It's fine. We've got an inner critic that has a lot of opinions about what we're doing here. Okay. Thankfully, I don't have an outer critic. Mark's pretty easygoing. He doesn't have an opinion. Although sometimes you do kind of say, I don't know, I was worried about that, but you never say it. So, you never say it out loud. He knows better.
No, I joke along because I've been doing this with you long enough. I know, as you so eloquently say, there's an ugly stage.
Yeah.
That you just got to push through, and then all of a sudden, 3 brush strokes later, it's there.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Yep.
That's it.
Just keep swimming.
Yeah, it just keeps, exactly. All right, now I'm getting black, and I'm going to go in and just add some really sharp contrast in some areas here, especially like right at the shoreline, or the line where the water hits, and maybe up in there, right up underneath where that wave is hitting. Maybe I want a little bit more black right there, but especially like right down here and in any like little areas that seem like obvious for cracks. So maybe there's a crack right here, maybe behind some of these highlights, in between 2 areas that have a lot of light. Break it up. Okay. All right, I think almost ready for our little waves. This is the best part. You gotta do all the hard stuff first, and then you get to have the payoff of all the fun splashy splash stuff. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Still not 100% on that. I think I might darken that up. I think maybe that's what I don't like. So I think maybe just gonna darken that part up a little bit. Okay, there we go. All right, so let me get the fan brush, and I'm gonna start with half zinc and half titanium white for this part. It's already splattering off. And I want it fairly thin. I'm going to add a little bit of glaze just to make it more sticky to the canvas. But I want it to be really like milky consistency. I'm going to see if I can get it to kind of spray up a little bit on me. And I'm going to set it down and just tap. Ooh, It's a little too much. So I think I have a little too much on my brush there. I had a little too much paint on my brush. So let me take some of that off and then just scoop it up on the tip. There we go. And this will go whatever direction you're tapping in. So if I'm tapping down, the force is going to make that paint go down. If I'm holding my brush up like this and tapping it like this, the paint's going to fly out that way. So I want to hold it kind of flat to the canvas and tap straight down or at a slight angle. Okay, and I'm gonna, whoop, tap a little bit right there. All right, that's good. And I want a little bit smaller sea spray, so I think I'm gonna get a toothbrush. That'll give me much smaller spray. Nails on chalkboard. I'm gonna get a little bit of blue with that. Okay, take most of it off on the paper towel. But it should look kind of like that. I'm gonna get a thing for my hand here. All right. So I'm gonna hold, same thing. I'm gonna pull back this way, so the force is going back this way, so I'm gonna hold it facing down, and there we go. Now we're getting some really fine sea mist spray. Right there. Good. All right, and then I'm going to get my Deerfoot Stippler, and I'm going to dab off anything below that line. So my rock's down here, because that spray is kind of going up. I could have put a paper towel down here, and I don't mind a little bit of it, but I don't want a ton of spray being above my rocks, because the idea is it's hitting the rocks and going up, not coming down over. All right, so I'm going to get a little bit of that same kind of color there, that light blue, with the Stippler. And I'm going to load it up fairly well with paint. This is pretty thin paint though, so I want to maybe get a little thicker. Okay, so I just want to, you can see there, it's not globbed on. There's just a little bit extra paint right at the edge. That will allow me to tap with it and do my little spray that's coming up there. Tap right here. And there's some that are kind of coming up. Over. There we go. And we'll do a little bit down, coming down there, like that wave is kind of rolling between the two. Okay, so I'm just finding the top of that wave to do this. Now I'm going to get my white. And the white's going to go at the most violent, forceful, like front edge of that wave. So right at the top. And I don't want to go in a line. I want it to kind of go up and down a little bit. So kind of like that. And it doesn't really have to be super bright all across too. You can kind of have areas where it's not as bright and areas where it's darker, lighter. Okay, there we go. I think I want some more something right there, like it's looping back over or something. Okay, that's good. Maybe go a little higher with this. It looks a little bubbly. You see what I did there? I kind of like, because of the edge of that brush. So I need to turn it on its side a little bit, maybe even get some of this blue and just kind of break that up a little bit so it's not like two little bubbles. That's just because of the brush, mostly. No way around it. But if I can turn it on its side, then I get more of a flat line. Okay, and I'm not going right there in that darkest. I need to keep that. In fact, I think I'm probably going to come back in and add some dark glazing in there because it's kind of gotten pretty light all over, and I don't want it to look too light. Okay, that's good. And then the rest of this is going to have some foam, but it's mostly going to be flat. So I'm going to just use this brush and sort of go in those areas where I've already sort of done some white and just add some little ripples and things. And just using that brush to drag through. You could use a fan brush for this too. It would work. Now this is where I do want to avoid going over my rocks. The first time I didn't care because I was going to go back over, but this time I want to be a little more careful and not go over my rocks. And I want to have these little connected almost waves that are just doing that, you know. They're just rocking back and forth into each other, and some of them are connected, some of them are separated. Okay, good. And I'm adding my little white ripples right under where those rocks are hitting. A lot of times you'll have a little splashy, a little bit of white wash where the rocks have been hitting against the waves a little bit. Okay. I'm going to do a few little ripples back there in this back area. Not bad. All right, as long as this is dry, I can kind of add some color there. So let's add a little bit of, let's see what happens if we add a little bit of our red. That kind of reddish tone, and we can add some, ooh, we got some splatters up there in our sky. I didn't notice that. Too late now. Oh, that's all right. Could make those into birds, maybe. Maybe those are birds. So I can just think of it. And I can also do this in my sky too. Add a little pink. Just a little bit. Little goes a long way. Maybe down here we can have some. Okay, and then I definitely want my green. So let me get that phthalo blue teal mixture and add just a little bit of yellow to it. And then some glaze. Maybe a little bit more yellow. So this will be just a slightly lighter green, a little bit more saturated green. I'm thinking where the light's hitting the wave, where it's kind of coming up, that maybe it might get a little bit lighter right there. And if it's not opaque enough, we can grab a little bit more of that opaque color. And then just use your finger to kind of blend it out a little bit. Right up under there, not a lot of light's hitting that area, so there's area where we want that to be a little bit darker. See how much better that looks already. And okay, I'm going to pull this down right here too. Maybe get a little bit of the darker blue and put it in this area. Okay, I like that. Let's do that for here too, just a little bit of that darker blue. Just where it's hitting the rock. And this is also just a way to kind of control those whites, because the whites can really take over as you start to add them. So you can use yellows, you can use, like we did, a little bit of pink, whatever. But just kind of go back in and modify. So I can go in here and maybe just glaze back all of this. Maybe all of this is a little bit more shadowed. Well, it doesn't change what we've painted, it just changes the tone of it. Color's a little bit different. I think I'm going to use this pretty much everywhere. Tone back those whites, and then I'm going to get my liner brush and some more of the titanium white, and I'm going to go to where I've already got white and just go above it, just like we did on the clouds where we lined those clouds and added little highlights. So we're going to just, and I'm going to keep this to the areas that are kind of in this region, so sort of where my light's hitting. I could even do some light rays if I wanted to, coming down from the clouds, which might be pretty. We'll see if we want to do that. Let's vote. Do you guys want to do that? You want light rays coming down from the clouds or no? Is that too much? I think it might look cool. Okay, just adding some surge here. And little dots and lines. And the lines are like, if I'm having them all kind of go in one direction, I'm kind of keeping them all in that direction until I choose to change the direction. But most of these are kind of going in this general direction. So I might do some that are kind of coming down off of those. That was too much. What's the consensus? Light, no light?
We got a lot of yes.
A lot of yes? Oh, okay. Good idea.
Yes, sounds cool. One no.
One no?
Maybe
okay.
a couple.
Maybe a couple.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Good.
Yes. Yes. Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe
Okay.
a couple.
Yeah. Maybe we'll just do them very faint. Like we're not gonna do like super bright.
Maybe like lasers, possibly, or like a UFO light shining down. Could be cool.
Is that you saying that, or is that somebody else?
No, no, I'm reading these. These are real comments. Don't go back later and check, please.
Oh gosh, that's crazy. All right, so I think that's good. I don't want to go too light down here, but I could go a little thicker with some of them. But I think we're good. I think I'm pretty happy with that. One other thing we can do on our rocks, if we got too much spray or water or whatever over certain areas of our rocks, we can go in and clean them up. I did get some spray on some of these areas where I don't want it. So it's fine mostly, you know, I mean but and I'm gonna get some of the blue and burnt umber green, kind of greenish color, trying to get close to that. Yellow, phthalo blue, burnt umber or burnt sienna, and some white, so kind of a lighter version of that, and go in here right up against the rocks and make sure in some of these, especially these areas where I'm a little bit off, make sure I have a good line where those rocks are meeting the water. Okay. Yeah, I feel like I want to go a little bit bigger with that one. Or, I don't know. I feel like maybe it needs, feels like these are like the same size. So I want one of them to be a little, what do you think? No? Or is it good? Am I overthinking it? This is the area where I really have to stop and start considering, and this is where like I might stop the painting entirely if I was painting this on my own and not doing it live, just to really consider what I want to do next and if I want to do anything at all. So think about that when you're painting yours. You know, don't rush to finish it. I'm gonna do a little bit more of the splattery right there with my white, maybe a little bit of that blue. And just right here. Yeah, there we go. Just want a little bit more dynamic splashy right there. Okay, that's better. Nice. Okay. And then now I can't do my sun rays.
Oh, wow.
I need to get a clean brush. And this needs to be dry where I'm going to do it. So I should have done that before I did my splashy splash. But I'm going to use the Zinc White for it. And I've got the blender brush. So blender, a really hard brush is best. Wipe out 99.9% of everything that's in there. You do not want to have a lot of paint in your brush for this, but it should be wet paint. And I'm just going to scrub through, try to get, okay, that wasn't too much paint off. There we go. Okay, this is very subtle. I'm going to keep it super subtle. Go from your lightest area always and do long sweeping strokes. Do not stop. Oops. Oh, dang it. That paint was wet. That's why I did that. Okay. And I did it where the dip is in the cloud, there and there. because that's kind of usually where you'll see something like that. The rays go in a straight line too, so make sure you have a single point of origin, so they're all coming from that. If you have them coming from different directions, it looks weird. So, all right, I think that's all. Just a little tiny bit. I'm gonna add back in those dots that I mushed up. And we're done. Right, so there's our ocean spray rocks. It's not the most violent seas that we've done, but I think it worked. I like it. I think it's slightly stormy. All right, there we go. I think I'm going to quit there. Let's say thank you guys so much. Hope you have a great rest of your day. I'm going to sign this. Super chat.
Super chat.
Excellent.
Yeah, we got a couple of super chatters tonight.
Awesome.
First one's from our friend Laura. Says, love you guys. Thank you for
Oh
all
my
the good
goodness.
feels.
Laura, thank you. That's so generous. Wow.
That is awesome. Thank you so much,
Wow.
Laura.
Incredibly generous.
And then the second one was from Laurie.
Another, wow, you guys are sweet tonight. Dream of saying Quinacridone Magenta in her soft voice.
You gotta say it in your soft voice.
Quinacridone Magenta. Can make that your ringtone. That's really funny.
And one of our longtime supporters, Kelly, she pointed out that YouTube has this thing now called hype.
Uh-huh.
So, like on this video, after we're done here and you come back and rewatch it,
Uh-huh.
if you scroll down next to where you can like and download and all that stuff, there's a hype button.
Really?
If you hit that, you can add points, hype points to your video, which lets YouTube know that you're excited about it and may help them share it to more people.
That's cool.
So
Yeah, hype it up, guys. Please.
so
That's
go down there,
awesome.
find that hype button.
Yeah.
Hit it. I did it twice on last week, so I did
Oh,
it on
really?
last week's video,
Okay.
and then I went back later and I was able to do it again.
Wow.
So I don't know how many times you can do it, but anyways,
That's really cool.
if you like it,
Yeah,
do
if you liked the video, please do that. That's great. Yeah, that'll help get it shared. For sure. Okay, I'm going to quit now because I'm starting to get like a little bit of solidness here. That's another thing that I have to watch out for.
Sorry.
Just like the clouds, when you're doing these waves, you kind of want to leave them a little frothy, a little light, you know, so that you can see through them. If you get too solid, then they start to look a little static, but I think we're good. All right. I just had kind of wiped off a lot of it when I was doing my cloud, so got a bunch of spray all over the place, didn't I, even with it covered.
It's okay. It's
It looks
natural.
good, though. I like it. I think it's fun. Yeah, a couple birds would be interesting, too. What time is it? Do I have time?
It is 8:20.
Oh, what? Really? Holy
Yes.
moly. Okay, I'm just going to do one little bird. Maybe two. I mean, we've already gone to 20 minutes over, so
You know, while we're here,
while we're here,
we might as well do it.
might as well.
But to remind everybody over thankfulart.com, you can find all of Angela's videos under the tutorial section. Keyword search, super awesome. You can find other seas and stormy waves and clouds and stuff like that.
Yes, I did it. There's a couple of lighthouses with stormy seas on there that you can find. Yeah. So, all right. So we made those little dots into birds.
Happy little accidents.
Yes. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching tonight. We really appreciate you guys. And thank you so much for our donators. That was really sweet. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Oh, I never used that one. I was going to try out that new brush. All right. That was a teaser. Maybe next week. All right. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.